OTB Sports Radio.
Yeah, you're very welcome along to Monday morning's OTB AM. We're here with you all the way until 9:30, and we're looking back at the Ireland hurling final. We'll also look back at the weekend's football and loads more coming your way. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can use the hashtag OTBAM on Twitter, or if you're watching us live on Facebook, then I'm sure you can leave a comment underneath like you can on YouTube. And if you're watching us on Periscope, then you can also comment on the side. We check them all and we get them all, so get involved. Owen, you were at the game yesterday?
I was. You were as well?
I was. We'll tell you how we got on at the game in just a couple of minutes, but first we want to just whet your appetite for what's coming for the rest of today and for the rest of your life, really. Here's Tommy Walsh pre-game. Have a listen.
Like a man, you played the game. That's the hurler's prayer, Joe, and this is our day. Not Kilkenny's, not Tipperary's, not Galway's. This is the day of the hurling people. It doesn't matter if you're from Ballygalget in Down or Ballysaggart in Waterford, Kilmallock in Limerick or Kilmiley in Kerry, St Mullins in Carlow or St Finbarrs in Cork. Everybody loves All-Ireland Final Day. It has given so many great moments, emotions and winters to so many counties. Who will forget 1996 when Wexford became champions and every man, woman and child in Ireland knew the words to the purple and gold and dancing at the crossroads? What about the thunder and lightning final of 1939? And we will always remember 1989 as the glens of Antrim emptied as the Saffrons marched to Crow Park. We've had wonderful captains who have captured the emotions of All-Ireland Final Day so beautifully. Since I was a little boy in Ballyhale, I dreamed of one day doing this. Henry Shefflin 2007. What happened to us last year has finally been buried, and thanks be to God. Pat Fleury in 1985, a year after the heartbreak of losing the centenary All-Ireland. Of winter na Galway, Tar é shock blin agus Quega, Tar crave na hair na Rashin Yolov. Joe Connolly in 1980 in one of the great moments in Irish sport, as he especially acknowledges the emigrants before, as Micheál O'Hare puts it, the striking up of the West Awake by the great Joe McDonagh. Which finally brings us to Tipperary and Kilkenny. 28 years ago, on the first Sunday in September 1991, I attended my first All-Ireland final, and I sat directly over there in the lower Cusack on my father's knee. A little nod, a wink to the steward. We squashed into the one turnstile and on we went. 2 for the price of 1, Joe. Tipperary won that day with a fox, a Viking and a man named English in their full forward line. But today, will the tables be turned? I hope so. All will be revealed at 5:15 today, Joe.
Yeah, Tommy Walsh tapping into history and personal experience and everything else that makes him one of the great analysts in the game. That was good. I missed it obviously because I was at the game. Yeah,
you'd love kind of a live feed of Tommy Walsh into your ears pre-game. It's almost like actually just bringing a pair of headphones to the game with you, which I kind of regretted after hearing that. So like obviously he didn't get his wish in terms of tails being turned, and I'd say there's a few kind of confused heads this morning in Kilkenny. Obviously we'll get into it throughout the morning in terms of analysis and all that, but not their day yesterday, and it is the day of Tipp, as we'll see across the back pages.
Yeah. What was your experience of the match like?
Absolutely drenched in the Nally Terrace because I'm cheap. It's actually a great place. I haven't been in.
So the Nally Terrace is beside the hill. What's the difference?
It's just that you can enter on Jones's Road, which I think is a perk. You can actually get central enough, so you're actually behind the right post on that end as well. So it's not that much of a difference. You just don't have the sprawling expanse of going around the corner like you do in the hill. But yeah, it was a great experience. Like, it's just, I really do think that if the sun is shining, there's no place to experience an All-Ireland final quite like the Terrace, in my opinion. Like the
sun shone for a good 25 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I think I actually got a little bit of sunburn, to be quite honest with you. Sunburn and pneumonia in one day.
Perfect.
Like one Tipp voice behind me was like, I don't care who wins this game as long as it just stops raining and stuff like that. There was an American bloke behind me who was absolutely enthralled by the fact that it was clearly his first ever hurling game. Like, what a bat, bro, I think was what he said when Brian Hogan had a particularly long puck out. And he was exhilarated by the massive hits that went in. I think it was Cathal Barrett who nailed somebody right underneath that
Adrian
goal.
Mullen.
Yeah, and then obviously you had the Richie Hogan incident as well, and he thought he was at a game of ice hockey really when he saw that.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to the nuances of that. I think Will is standing by at the Clayton Hotel. It used to be the Burlow. How are you, Will?
Good. How are things, Owen and Ger?
What's the crack? This Tipperary team have been known to enjoy themselves it's fair to say. So, are many of them down early at the breakfast buffet, lashing into their eggs and sausages?
I haven't seen a single Tipperary player management out. I saw some videos on Snapchat and Instagram last night of players still celebrating at 4:30 in the morning. Understandable when they won their first All-Ireland in 3 years. It's mainly supporters with pretty sore heads who are leaving the Burlington early this morning, getting ready, of course, for the home of hurling to welcome back the Liam McCarthy later on when it goes to Semple Stadium this evening. And if it's anything like the scenes in 2016 where they absolutely packed the place out, it's going to be a remarkable crowd, I think, there tonight, lads.
So just explain what their itinerary is for today. Obviously, they'll break up into little bits of dribs and drabs of groups and do different things. Some of them will go to the kids' hospitals, they always do.
Yeah.
And then is there a scheduled time? Are they getting the train down? Are they getting the bus down? What happens?
Yeah, traditionally they get the train back down to Thurles, which works out quite nicely because you can pretty much walk from Thurles down to Semple Stadium, then afterwards from the train station. So I'm still waiting just for a time that they're due back in, but usually it's kind of 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. Then they'll go back for a hell of a party in Semple Stadium in Tom Semple's Field after that. As you say, obviously some players will go along to the Children's Hospital in Crumlin, as is tradition. They'll bring the Liam McCarthy there to see the kids later on this morning. We'll see how early they get out for breakfast. We're hoping to chat to some of the players and maybe Liam Sheedy a little bit later on in the programme as well. But, you know, remarkable enough success yesterday. The biggest ever defeat for Brian Cody in an All-Ireland final. And, you know, Tipperary just put on the afterburners, particularly just after half-time, after that Richie Hogan sending off. So it's amazing how Seamus Callanan and Bubbles O'Dwyer didn't score in the first half, and they were entirely held up by the Kilkenny defence. Once that space opened, once Kilkenny dropped down to 14, they ran off 2 goals and 7 points in that first 16 minutes of the second half. So we often talk about their forward line being assassins, and going into the game we were saying if Tipperary gets space and if it gets wide open, there's no way Kilkenny are winning this All-Ireland, and that's exactly the way it played out. They were lethal in that stage just after half-time. Callan and Bubbles scored 2-2 between them from 4 possessions early in the second half. So every chance they got, they took, Ger.
Yeah, Bubbles looked a bit like Maradona. I thought there was one of the points he scored where he just kind of wandered out, flicked his hips, turned around, hit it over the bar, and you're like, ooh, this is there's a centre of gravity there that you don't often see in Irish people. Before I go now, obviously we'll be back to you as you try and roust some people from their slumber. The Jubilee team was the Offaly team of '94 from the final against Limerick, the 5-minute final where they scored a 2-6 to win the game by 6 points, having been 5 down. My maths aren't great there.
Remember, Limerick only scored 3 points in the entire second half. As an Offaly person, it's always remembered for the goals that Offaly scored, particularly the 2 quick-fire ones after Johnny Dooley's free. But remember, Limerick only scored 3 points in that second half. So it wasn't entirely down to just Offaly doing the smash and grab. No,
the defence was sensational because obviously they had one of the greatest hurlers of all time. But it was great to see that team yesterday, and they all looked so well.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I think they're a lot of the 90s teams are fairly beloved. Like Clare are going to get a hell of a reception next year. Their team that made the breakthrough from 95 are the Jubilee team next year. But that Offaly team, particularly back at home, are remembered extremely fondly because they were the breakthrough team for the best part that won a National League title, had been really good at underage level. I got to a final in 94, maybe didn't play all that well, played a lot better in the final in 95 and lost. But I felt like a huge breakthrough win, first one since the 80s. And yeah, I think there's a lot of characters in that team, the likes of Johnny Pilkington, Brian Wheelahan, who were extremely fondly remembered. And it was great to see them get a big reception out in the pitch after the minor game yesterday. And the only scary part is, I remember being a kid on the terrace watching that final, and it makes you feel extremly old when you realise they're the Jubilee team.
Yeah, that's been happening to me there for a couple of years. Well, don't worry about it, you'll get used to it. All right, we'll talk to you later, Will. Thanks a million. Will down at the Burlow, and I mean, my hopes for him to be able to get us somebody alive and compos mentis by 9:30 are slim.
Did you see many Tipp fans wandering the streets of Dublin this morning? I saw 8. One Tipp fan in particular had a 2-litre jug of milk in his hand, half drank, at 5:30, 5:45 this morning.
You know, there's a logic to that.
Well, if you're actually in the mood to actually drink that amount of milk at that point in the morning, then really what are you doing actually outside of Coppers at that point? You really are probably still in a state of mind to still be there.
Is it going to come back up fairly soon?
I don't know. I didn't get that far. I didn't hang around to look to see what the next step in his journey was.
Yeah. Okay, here's what's coming up on the show this morning. I'm going to start this morning with the Examiner, and it's Seamus Callanan on the front. Tipping point, Premier Power to 28th All-Ireland after Hogan sees red. There's a lot of Premier puns on the front of the papers and the back pages today. Premier Class, Anthony Daly and Donald O'Grady on Sheedy's key calls. Ref Justice Brian Gavin on the big Richie Hogan call. Hurling in 2019, nominating the best moments from this year's championship. So it's basically a hurling special with obviously reflection on the Premier League stuff as well. did you know what the red card was for when it happened, or did you have to? You could see?
Yeah, it was right in front of me, really. So I was lucky that it was in that position. If it was at the other end of the picture of Tipper shooting the other way or whatever, not a prayer would I have been able to see what happened. It was just right in front of us, so it was perfect for us to see. And you could tell why he'd been sent off, but obviously, you need to go on Twitter at half-time to actually have a replay, because these sort of things, you kind of need a replay to be 100% sure that Richie Hogan did indeed raise his elbow to the head of Carl Barrett. Like, you were tweeting yesterday saying any links to any videos for certain
Somebody
things.
could gift what happened, the red card, because I couldn't. You're at the game, you can't see what happened.
Not ideal.
It's an suboptimal experience as a sports fan. Also the Barrett pull on Hogan. So I didn't see that at the time. And then I think Philip Lanigan had a good tweet where he has the picture of Barrett basically clotheslining Richie Hogan. Hogan goes off and gets treatment to his blood. Here's Rory O'Connor saying the number of people at the All-Ireland hurling final turning to Twitter to find out what happened in a key incident should be a warning sign to the GAA and other sporting bodies that not showing replays is detrimental. If you're paying €90 to be there, you shouldn't be at a disadvantage. 1,700 likes for that. I understand that there are some refereeing issues, right? Like, the referee's going to look at the big screen and make a call on that. But there's the picture. You see, it's again even that photograph of so that's Richie Hogan in a changed jersey, because obviously he's gone off after Barrett nails him, and so he's seeking a bit of retribution. And the referee didn't do anything about the first one, so he obviously felt like he wasn't getting protected. So you take matters into your own hands. You do something stupid, and it costs your team the opportunity to compete. There's a couple of parts of this. I do feel like we're going to have to get to a point where there is live replay. Otherwise, why would people go? What's the experience? Like, especially in hurling when the ball moves so fast. Do you not need live replay?
Yeah, well, I don't think the live experience is a live experience. We all know why we're there. We're there because there's an incredible energy around these massive occasions. I don't go to Croke Park, I particularly don't pick up a terrace ticket to go and see every minute detail of every little thing that's happening in the hurling game. I'm there to see a historic moment, whatever it may be. But I do agree that it does impact the match viewing experience. You're not coming away more informed than if you are at home.
This is an interesting one here. Yeah, Croke Park refused to show replays of any decisions made during the game, yet they repeatedly left images of a deflated Richie Hogan on display. Hard to agree with the moral logic of that. There was long, lingering shots in the second half of Richie Hogan on the subs bench, effectively. And as the game leached away from Kilkenny, they would go back, and then there'd be another goal or a point or something would happen, and then they'd go back again to see if, Richie's demeanour had changed. It did feel like it was a little bit over the top.
Did it feel like... I can see. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. Like, okay, you're as a director, you're probably looking for the story. You're looking, what is the most dramatic image I can possibly bring up at this point on the screen, and it is a guy who's naturally distraught. So I can see why that's happened. It's not. Well, it's a little bit voyeuristic, of course it is, but he's in the stadium. I mean, there's cameras there. They're not doing anything illegal by showing him and putting it up on the screen. The reason why they don't show replays is pretty obvious.
Well,
it's because they don't want
it's not illegal. Like, so, but Shane McEntee raised the morality.
The morality, but it's moral. But like, replays are not up on the screen because they don't want to help referees. Like, it's not kind of an invasion of any salacious.
The referees thing, I think, is a red herring, right? The fundamental thing is that they don't want people in the crowd to get angry. And
thereby, like, if there's a massive commotion in the crowd, I'm not saying that this is what I think is right. I'm just saying what the logic behind this is that if you've got a massive commotion in the crowd because they've seen Richie Hogan get sent off for what, say, Kilkenny fans believe to be wrong. If you did a straw poll of Kilkenny fans yesterday, immediately after that red card, to say was it a red card, they'd probably all say, it was just a yellow. Then suddenly you've got this massive wave, you've got a massive booing of the ref when he's coming off. It does change the thing. So
it was booing anyway, because I don't think anybody...
There was booing anyway. It would have been much more vociferous. It would have been much louder. It would have got quite vitriolic. Does that change then the referee in terms of giving the next free here or there? I think that's what all I'm saying is that this is the logic behind it. I'm not saying that that's the right or wrong thing. I'd prefer to have come away from Croke Park yesterday not having to use any of my valuable mobile data, looking at Tommy Rooney tweets about what the actual red card was at half-time.
At some point, though, At some point, you've got a decision to make. So you went to the All-Ireland final, right? You've got a ticket that went on general sale on Wednesday,
Yes.
right? So there will be no tickets for general sale for the football, for example, this year, obviously, because Dublin are going for 5 in a row. But there are tickets for general sale basically for every other game of the year, right? With this level of experience, will you go to semi-finals next year if it's actually a better experience watching at home?
100% will, just to be honest with you, but I just personally love the live match day experience of it all and what you do actually gain from being there. But I do agree that you are missing out on the more important moments for the sake of seeing the more minute details, which is, look at Seamus Callanan's movement right in front of me. You're sacrificing what did Richie Hogan actually do in the most important moment in an All-Ireland final. So it's a big sacrifice to gain a little bit more of a tactical thing. Like I needed to concentrate pretty hard in the Sunday game last night, put it that way.
James Osborne says, boring final after player got sent off. Mark Callahan says, harsh red. I don't think it was a harsh red, really. It was the right call under the circumstances. But what definitely needs to be talked about is that Barrett needed to have been booked, at least, for his head-high challenge. And who knows, maybe that's a red card too. And then Richie Hogan maybe doesn't take the law into his own hands. And also, Carl Barrett probably doesn't nail Adrian Mullen as much because he's on a yellow card. And the game changes. Like, it's all these little imperceptible things, they change quite significantly. Paul Quirk says, Kilkenny's coaches must take some responsibility. Every club in Ireland have drills and train how to bypass the extra man. Can't believe an inter-county team are so clueless against an extra man. This is the key point, right? Kilkenny were dumb in that second half. They hurled a dumb game. And I've no idea why a team as experienced as that and a management team as experienced as that thought that they were going to get change from the Tipperary fullback line when they were down a man. So it was always 2-on-1. And Ronan Maher was one of the ones in the fullback line who was like, oh, you're going to lorry ball on top. Yeah, this is great. Carl Barrett got on so much ball in the first 15 minutes of the second half. I was like, there's a good chance here now if he finishes this game that they might end up just giving him man of the match because that's how this stuff happens. And it made no sense that Kilkenny were doing that.
No, it didn't. There was no plan B. Like, I really do think that Kilkenny have proved this summer that there is, amongst all the tactical analysis, a huge place for intensity and what you're actually going to provide when it comes to work rate. And that was the foundation of their win against Limerick. But they've also proved yesterday that there is a huge place for tactics and for innovation and actually adapting to what the opposition are giving you. And they just didn't do that yesterday. It was the last thing they needed to do, especially when they had the information in front of them that this is not working. Balls are going in and none of them are sticking, and it's essentially the old adage of they just went for goals too soon. That's what it seemed to me. It was like this is their best route, or what they had
no plan B.
But that's what I mean. Like they had perceived that was their best route of actually scoring a goal, was actually putting it in long. Now what happens then? Is it an absent half forward line? Is there not an outlet there? What happens then when the ball is?
It's that they haven't practiced it.
It seemed that way.
The Kilkenny don't do tactics thing. Well, maybe you should do tactics. Maybe you need to be able to work the ball slowly through the lines and have a running game to fall back on. The whole thing about winning your own ball. How can Walter Walsh win his ball when there's two people marking him? He can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. Their tactic was Walter or TJ or Colin Fennelly are going to be able to go and take two players out of the game. But that doesn't make any sense. Over 35, 37 minutes. Anyway.
I'll tell you what, both semi-finalists sitting at home, losing semi-finalists sitting at home yesterday, second day, we would have both won that game yesterday. Particularly Limerick. Like I think you can still make the case that Limerick are the best team in the country. It would have been a hell of a lot of a better All-Ireland final, certainly had Limerick won that semi-final, I think it's fair to say.
Okay, so the Daily Mail for you this morning. Premier class, Tipp Titans are our best ever, says Sheedy. And there you go, 325 to 20 points. I think somebody said it was their biggest defeat since Offaly in 1990. I remember being in the Gaeltacht and telling a kid from Offaly that Offaly had hammered Kilkenny and he thought I was lying because the score was so big. It's like, no, I don't believe you. There's no way we won that game that much. That's the two McGraths. Noel McGrath giving man of the match in the Sunday game last night, and John McGrath with I was like, what's he doing back in the full back line? Oh, there he's saving a Colin Fennelly goal. It was an amazing little block.
There's another moment I had to go home and watch again because
they showed that replay.
Yeah, it is.
They did, because it looked like he just had a fresh air.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I was like, there's no way. And it was one of the most important, because you talk about those little moments that can change a game right there. That would have been a significant moment had that ball hit the back of the net from Kilkenny. And maybe Richie Hogan doesn't get as angry as a result because they've got a bit more of a cushion lead. I don't know. Just the one last thing on Richie Hogan, because it's been spoken about, and obviously I'm only catching up with what Shefflin said at half-time yesterday, but obviously there's nonsense about it. It's an All-Ireland final and somebody shouldn't be sent off in an All-Ireland final. Should the referee not be given massive amounts of credit for making that call in an All-Ireland final?
Yeah, but so they missed the Tipp had a penalty, right? I think in the first half. Richie Hogan needed protection from Carl Barrett because Barrett clotheslines him and doesn't get it. So Grant, he gets that final decision right, but he's been involved in why that has come to pass. I believe that there's a cause and effect. Maybe that's completely wrong. Maybe Rich Hogan gets sent off anyway, irrespective of whether or not Barrett has taken him out.
I think he could be onto something there, but I think from the referee standpoint, he obviously thought that Barrett went across legally. He'd obviously made a connection with the ball or whatever. He's certainly...
I think they missed it.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Or whatever actually the connection that happens to Richie Hogan, that certainly wasn't caught. But as in this moment, in isolation, Brian Cody's saying that he couldn't have been 100% sure because he was asking his linesman. Maybe he was 100% sure because he did have the conversation with his linesman and he collected all the available information to him.
That's more likely. That is more likely to be true. That he used his time well, got the evidence. Are you sure it was head height? Yes, it is. We've had a directive. Everybody knows the referees have had directives about head height tackles this year. All the more reason why Carl Barrett's very lucky that he's still on the pitch at that point. But anyway.
The Irish Daily Star this morning leads with Tipp's Liam team. Premier triumph, but Cody amazed at Hogan red card. Ger Loughnane, meanwhile, is saying a yellow card would have been enough. And then Inter to land Sanchez. So Inter Milan trying to sign Manchester United misfit Alexis Sanchez. The Italian Giants want 30-year-old Sanchez on loan until the end of the season.
Yes.
With a €16.5 million option to make the move permanent next summer. But United would have to subsidise a bit of the $550k he is earning a week.
We could do that. If you're going to give us any money at the end of the year, we will give you some. We will pay some of it because we're going to have to pay him anyway, and he's not going to pay that much, right?
Yeah, completely. I mean, you would obviously pay Inter Milan almost to take him off your hands, but if they're going to take some of the wages as well, you get the added benefit of him just not being at the club, and United managing to perhaps take a step forward, take a step past the Alexis Sanchez era, because he represents all that Manchester United have done wrong over the past half a decade or so. So, a fantastic Monday morning story for Manchester United fans, I think.
The London Times, they lead with cricket. Smith and Doubt for third test. It's days like today you really miss the Ireland edition of the Times. The Times Ireland, when they had really good GA coverage, and obviously today, unfortunately, there is no GA coverage in the London Times.
The Mirror this morning leads with Heaven Sheedy, delirious Tipp.
That's good.
Delirious Tipp boss walking on air.
You have to be a certain age to get it, though.
After All Ireland glory.
Heaven Sheedy, you've got to be a certain age to get it.
Oh, I know, yeah. Well, I'm just glossing right over this. I'm not going to get lulled into a false sense of you don't know what that cultural reference is.
What is it?
Come on, and educate all those youngsters, Ger.
Do you not know, really?
I'd like to think that once you tell me, I'd be like, okay. It's Monday morning.
Who scored for Ireland to draw 1-1 Italian 90?
Jenny Mac, right, okay.
Who scored?
Kevin Sheedy.
Hey.
That is,
Time of the morning to you.
Is it really?
That's not, I mean, all the rest of them are Premier or something or other.
They picked another person called Sheedy.
Premier Eoin.
Heaven Sheedy? Come on, they just picked another random person
just
called Sheedy.
Just because you didn't get it,
and made his first name right.
Just because you didn't get it.
I don't know, I think it's...
pretty famous. Kevin
he
Sheedy
is extremely famous, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with this. It's not Tab of the morning to you whatsoever.
Good morning to you, Jamie Gallagher, or is it good afternoon, who has WhatsApped off the ball this morning to say he's watching OTB AM live from Bali. That's pretty nice. Oh, wow, look, there's the video playing. Yeah, there's Will. Very good. Will in Bali. That looks pretty sweet. What are you doing watching us? Should you not be having the crack with whoever you're there with? I mean, you're obviously... We're glad that you're here with us, but come on, you know.
I'm going to move on to the Irish Independent this morning. They lead with the headline, Tipp's Giant Leap. They've got all their columns kind of mentioned on the back page. Martin Bretney's saying 7 weeks from the depths of Munster final despair to All-Ireland glory over old enemy. Vincent Hogan saying Sheedy's stamp isn't so much what he does as the environment he creates. And Eamon Sweeney's kind of looking forward. He's saying Tipp's 2020 vision to retain title will be built on mistakes of the past. Obviously, the one-hit wonders that have been Tipperary over the past 40, 50 years.
Nick English makes the point that this is the first time since the 60s that any Tipp lads have had 3 All-Ireland medals at the same time. There's 4 of them, I think, who played.
Yeah, Paddy Maher, Brendan Maher, Seamus Callanan. Bonner Maher?
He didn't mention Bonner. I don't think I have it here right in front of me, but I'd forgotten that. You'd forgotten that this Tipperary team have like chronically underachieved up to this point.
I was making that point to Tommy Walsh on Friday. He disagreed with me that if Tipp had lost yesterday, you would actually be talking about this team with kind of a sense of regret about what they didn't achieve in the game as opposed to what they did achieve in the game. Because I think having 3 as opposed to 2 is a significant difference.
No McGrath.
This is Noel McGrath, of course. This is now a significantly improved team, and we talk about the legacy of the team.
I agree.
And they've gone straight into the pantheon of all-time greats. And like, I mean, you look at the Noel McGrath celebrating on the back page there, and you look at the likes of Seamus Callan, you look at the Mars, like they are modern greats now. They are in the rung just below that Great Kilkenny team, and they deserve to be there. They deserve to be seen as the second best crop of players this century. Cork people might have something to say about that, but that's an argument for another day.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having that argument at some point. Not a chance to breathe is Tipperary. Avalanche buries Kilkenny is the Irish Times. Redemption Street for Tip is the headline over Keith Duggan's piece. Loads of more tip stuff, and so Nicky's saying there, it's an interesting piece from Nicky, obviously, just saying that the Liam Sheedy obviously put a great backroom team together, and it was a really great backroom team. Like any issues that they might have had, any free taking issues, they brought in Owen Kelly and was it May? Eamon O'Shea was involved, but like kind of a little bit below the radar, and then obviously not below the radar at all towards the end. You weren't quite sure when it was announced if he was coming back full time or if he was like as a consultant. It was just a couple of training sessions, but there he is, like at the games and all talked out. And I think it's so. Mike Keane is the guy writing the sideline column, and he makes the point too about. He says it was perhaps the manager's poorest All-Ireland final manning the sideline, talking about Brian Cody. And that hasn't kind of come out just yet. I guess that's probably something that, as the week goes on, the questions over whether or not Cody and... So post-match he was talking about the genuineness and the honesty of the players and how he thought the defence were great. And like that's all absolutely fair enough to talk about that. But there was no style of play in the second half that gave your side a chance to win. When you went down to 14 men, you had no plan. It can't be
it's a serious black mark against Cody. Getting to the final, obviously a huge achievement and all that, and what it was based on and where they came from. Like one of the interesting things is that managers always say after an All-Ireland win or any win, everybody wrote us off. Everybody above in Dublin wrote us off. If Liam Sheedy says that, he's actually kind of right. I mean, this group of players were kind of written off from Tipperary, that we had said that they don't have the bottle to actually. I guess to be honest, it's actually to do with kind of putting back-to-back All-Irelands with. So maybe there will be a question mark about that when we get into next year. But really, I think they've proven people wrong with this year, and Sheedy coming back. And I think it was Brendan Cummins saying this on the game last night that this time last year Sheedy was like, we should be there, we deserve to be there. And they've proven that they do have a bunch of players that deserve to win All-Irelands. Back page of the Sun is everything we effing dreamed of. Captain Seamus high on emotion. You've got Pog on the lead. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer promised Paul Pogba will still be at Manchester United when the European transfer window closes. Real Madrid target Pogba, claims a question mark remains over his future. He said that last week. They're playing Wolves tonight, and Solskjaer says they've got absolutely no concerns about the future of Paul Pogba in a Manchester United jersey. And then you've also got Lampard. Frank Lampard won his first point as Chelsea boss, but felt worse than after last week's 4-0 drubbing at Manchester United. They drew 1-1 with Leicester City yesterday, and it could have been a hell of a lot worse for Chelsea.
Stephen Kelly's going to talk to us a little bit later on about that. Tip's best ever is Liam Sheedy's verdict on the Tip team that obviously won yesterday. Dubs find a way no matter what. This is the Herald, and they have Paul Curran's column there. Competition within driving them forward, and there's a preview of Man United against Wolves tonight as well.
The Racing Post goes with world beaters. Stars of the future fight out Hot Morney as Toff Earthlight defeats Raffle Prize. The back page of the Racing Post is Hungry Wolves ready to take another bite. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff tonight at Molineux. And Blues out to 5-2 for top 4 finish. They're quite the statement from the bookies this morning, saying that Frank Lampard will not get Chelsea into the Champions League next season.
The front of the Telegraph, frightening England hail Archer and say he has changed dynamic of series. Smith out for Headingley after concussion caused by bowler. This is the second Ashes test which ended in a draw. And that's the story on the back of the Guardian as well. Close call, Roos missed chance, but says Archer holds key. We've also got silver lining. Asher Smith is all eyes despite coming second, and in the pink, indeed he rises high to spoil Lampard's homecoming. Alright, it's 8:01 this morning. We'll bring you the Irish news before we go here. Sheedy returns Tip to the top. That's a picture of the full-time whistle, and O'Neill is stepping away from Tyrone's setup. So that's interesting. Stephen O'Neill has decided to step away from Mickey Hart's setup, or I don't know if I don't know if it's his decision or if it's a mutual decision or what it was. So we'll read that story and bring you a bit more detail on it in a couple of minutes' time. Yeah, 2 minutes past 8 now this morning. You're watching OTB AM, or else perhaps you're listening to us on the Go Loud app, which is the best place to get OTB Sports Radio, which is non-stop sports radio in your earballs whenever and wherever you want it. This is the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. We're back talking the Ireland hurling final with John Duggan. Reaction from the Tipperary camp after these.